Greetings, class. Let's say a few things about the prosperity gospel movement. All right, as a brief overview, in this presentation, we will analyze both what is called the traditional understanding of prosperity gospel, as well as what we might call the modern understanding. So we'll start with the traditional understanding. So a traditional definition of prosperity gospel is the following. It is a late 19th to early 20th century American Christian movement that preaches that poverty is sin because God wants you to be rich. That is, it is this idea that God wants human beings to be economically prosperous. And the prosperity gospel, also known as prosperity theology, is often considered to be the antithesis of the social gospel. So whereas the social gospel movement emphasized reform of society, the prosperity gospel emphasizes reform of self. So it's a more individualistic kind of socioeconomic theology. Now, some of the early proponents of prosperity theology in the 19th and early 20th centuries would be people like Russell Conwell, Ralph Waldo Trine, even famous entrepreneurs like Andrew Carnegie. And in the late 20th century, the prosperity gospel became synonymous with televangelism. And it has also been criticized in the late 20th and early 21st centuries as being a selfish theology peddled by greedy pastors and televangelists. For example, Creflo Dollar, right, a famous prosperity gospel advocate, in 2014, he had a campaign to raise over $60 million from his church for a new jet plane, which became a matter of great controversy and led to even further critiques of the prosperity gospel movement. Now here's the deal. The traditional kind of definition or understanding of prosperity gospel is this idea that God wants you to flourish economically, to make money, to become wealthy. But modern prosperity gospel is a little bit different. That is, it's defined like this. Modern prosperity gospel is a primarily American religious movement that teaches that God wants human beings to prosper in health, relationships, family, and finances. That is, modern prosperity gospel has a more holistic understanding of what is meant by individual prosperity. So modern prosperity theologians and pastors argue that Christians can use certain prayer as well as positive thinking techniques to guarantee this kind of holistic prosperity. And so the main thesis of modern prosperity gospel is that God does not want you to suffer in this life. Rather, God wants you to prosper. Prosper in your health, prosper in your relationships, and yes, prosper financially. Now, one of the major proponents of modern prosperity gospel is Joel Osteen. And your next activity after finishing this presentation is that I want you to actually watch some selections from Joel Osteen's sermon, Ask Big, because it kind of encapsulates what the whole modern prosperity movement is about. And as you're watching, think about what Joel Osteen's attitudes are regarding capitalism. That is, does it seem like prosperity gospel is encouraging people to work within the capitalist system, to overthrow it, to reform it? You know, what do you get a sense of when it comes to his understanding of the capitalist economic system?